Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of scornful. But his delight is in the law of the I am, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. And this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. All praises to the Most High. All praises, all praises. We thank God for you, you, and you. Yes, we're in the law. We're in the law that God had given unto Jacob. Yes, yes, yes. And we thank God for those of you who have been with us since the beginning, and those of you even here and there's about, and those of you who have just subscribed, as well as those of you who are about to subscribe. Thanking God for you, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes, yes, yes. We give God the glory and the praise for his law. We're in the book of, should I say, Exodus. Exodus, again, we're going back over these things. It's going to be a continual thing going over and over and over, because there's someone out there that really wants to please God, that really hopes that this would excite your spirit and your mind to go and discover what God has commanded you. We're not talking about the heathen. We're talking about the children of Jacob and those that should follow after the government of Israel, even that Israel that is of the children that was once Jacob, but his name has been changed for some unforeseen reason. But still, the children of Jacob, this law, this is who the law comes through. And the lawgiver is the Most High, even the I am, which some call Yah. They call Yahweh Shai, not Yahweh Shai, but Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahweh, and all manner of other names. And it's amazing how after these names come up, what happens is people began to come up with all kind of things of why these names are wrong and this name is right. If you speak English, it's I am that I am. If you speak in the Akosa language, it's Sanini Nanini. And down in the Congo, Tata and Zumbi. And other names in other places. You got this name in the Igbo language. It's still I am that I am, period. In the Native American language, Heya, I am. In certain languages in the Native American language, I'm talking about the true Native Americans or indigenous Americans. Some of you don't get it. The deception is put upon you because of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now, the book of Exodus chapter 22. We're going to run down these laws here. And he reads, we're in verse 1. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox or 4 sheep for a sheep. In other words, he says it just as it is. If you stole for somebody, you're going to put it back 5-fold or 4-fold. You're going to give it back. For this reason, you have the heathen that have come up with property insurance. But this is where the community and even law enforcement should even put forth. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. In other words, there is no revenge for him. He shouldn't have been stealing. He shouldn't have been there. If he was not there stealing, then he would not have lost his life. is what God, oh, that's so bad. You say God's way is fair, and God says, are your ways not fair? He's talking to the children of Israel before they entered into the land of Canaan. That's who he's talking to right now. To give them an establishment, he's establishing a governmental laws. And who is the head of that government? The Most High, the creator of all heaven and earth, time and space, matter, and the giver of all laws. Yes, it is he. The law of breathing, the law of your body living, the law of the sun, the law of the moon, the law in the earth, underneath the earth, in the sea, all laws God, even the I Am, hath established. Now this law with man seems to be the most difficult of them all, because even those fallen angels have a task to test them and how much they would even, without question, obey these laws. He says that the son, he says now in verse 4, if the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. Now you have to realize back then they were farmers. They were sheep herders. They were they grew crops. This is what they did in the land of Goshen, and this is what they were going to do when they get there. For the lifeblood of any people is the farm. And that lifeblood comes from the land. Land is most valuable in all things. This is why many people on the continent, even of Africa, have really been poor, because they have not been able to really benefit from their land because of the greed of those in the West and the Arabs and the other places, I'll put it that way, have taken advantage of them. Now, the time is yours. Let's continue. He said, if the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. In other words, if I take it and get it back from you, you're going to give me 2 more other than that. If you stole 1 sheep, you're going to find me 2 sheep. Now, in verse 5, if a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, he shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field of the best of his own field. Now the best of his field belongs to God. 1/10 of that field belongs to God, and it will be given to the priest. So this is the tithe. He's taken from the Most High not only, and he's also stolen by putting his beast into those fields. He said, in the best of his own vineyard shall he make restitution. Yes, he shall. Now he says, now, verse 6, if fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. In other words, you start a forest fire, or if you start a fire in your neighborhood and it tears up some houses and cars and stuff, you're going to pay. You will pay. In verse 8, he says, now, all this falls under those 10 commandments that you see. See, many of you don't understand those commandments. The commandments these are what God meant. Those were general statements to give a person, to give them a foundation. Now he gives examples, and these are actual laws. But the fact is, there are only 10. But these are going into depth of what he means by those laws. Thou shalt not steal. Now, I think that clarifies itself right there. Now he goes on to see whether he had put in his hands unto his neighbor's goods. He says, the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought to the judges, to see whether he put his hands unto his neighbor's goods. That's what he's saying. The master, the one who is head of the household, will be brought unto the judges, if the thief be not found, to see whether he stole his neighbor's goods. In other words, your neighbor come over into your yard and take something, but yet he says somebody took it. But now we have a problem here. Where's the thief? We can't find him. Because usually when somebody does something, somebody sees that person. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox or ass or for sheep or for raiment or for any manner of lost things which another challenges to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. In other words, we have to take it to court. Just like you do here. In other words, if you can't find the thief and you accuse your neighbor, then you have to get evidence that your neighbor has stolen your goods. Because today, even back then, people will lie, and they are good at it. Because who is their father? Or their fathers, even the Satans. Now, let us continue. He says, now if a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die or be hurt or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the I am be between them both, that he hath not put his hands to his neighbor's good, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. In other words, he's going to make an oath. He's going to say, well, to the Almighty, because in this, God sees all and he knows all. People say, well, how can he do this and do that? Because you don't know God's word. You don't understand and know the Most High. Apparently, this man made an oath. You got those that will come to you and say, oh man, I swear I didn't do it, in so many words. But let's take it before the judge. He's going to make an oath. And if he found to be violating of that oath that he made, that he did not steal it, then they're going to take action from there. So the fact is that God has it all covered. This is why Israel did not have any prisons. Listen, verse 12. If it be stolen from him, and he shall make restitution, and if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. In other words, if you were charged to keep somebody's goods, and for somehow they disappeared out of there, he put it in your hands, watch my stuff. And you did not watch it, you did not keep it, you did not protect it. He says, now, if it be stolen from you, the one who was charged to protect it, that vowed you protected, then you will pay restitution. Now, if it be torn in pieces, let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good which is torn. In other words, if it be torn, apparently it got away, or some, should I say, carnivorous animal got a hold of his chickens, or, well, we don't deal with chickens, but anyway, his sheep, his lamb, his goats, or whatever. He says, then he's okay. He says in verse 14, if man borrows aught of his neighbor, if you borrow something from your neighbor, he says, and it be hurt or die, or even broken in this day and time, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. In other words, you're going to pay for it to be repaired, healed, or replaced. This is what God is saying here. This is the same law. These are laws that God had put before the people before they entered into the land of Canaan. Yes, he did. Now, but if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be a hard thing, it came for its hire. In other words, you let a man borrow something, or you're there with his sheep or his goat, they get milk, and something happened, no, and it just falls dead or whatever, it's not your fault. Now here's something. Some of you in some continents, you have what they call a bride price. In this book, we call it a virgin's dowry, the dowry of virgins. Here is where some of your laws or some of your traditions falter. You have even some here in the United States and other countries have what they call a bride price in so many terms. But they get it from the Torah. Christianity they even have what they call a bride price. or wearing of the white. In some form or another, people have a bride or a virgin's endowment. But then you have, listen, let's read this there. Verse 19. Whosoever, well, let's go a little bit further here. He says now, right here, he says now, if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. In other words, given that this maid, it may be a virgin, he shall endow her. What is that endowment? We shall see. But anyway, because he has laid with her, he will marry her. This is what they call a shotgun. Not that she would be pregnant. In some areas, is if she turned out pregnant. It's still he done wrong and she done wrong too. But he's going to marry her. You lay with her, married, sex is marriage. In other words, you automatic, you done. Period. But now we have made it in this hedonistic, backslidden, Christian, paganistic societies, and some Islamic societies, that we have went back on the things of the law. In other words, you got a maid that comes before the church, your so-called church, your paganistic church, and says, well, I committed, I'm pregnant now. No, back in Abram's day, she would have been put to death, period. She shouldn't have consented. But God gives him room here. I'm going to give you some room. He says he shall surely endow her to be his wife. In other words, you laid with her, that's your wife, cuz. Period. Now, if her father utterly refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. In other words, the dowry, the bride price, is on condition that that woman is a virgin. Now, I've seen some African tribes that have done it right. My daughters, you give 2,000, I keep them as virgins. They have never known a man. I saw that on one social media platform, and I said, this guy is right. You know, then you had some naysayers, oh, I doubt they virgins, they ain't no virgins. That's because of your warped mind. A lot of young women have to deal with incest. They have to deal with in-laws and brothers and all manner of evil to get through to where they can actually receive a bride price. This is an honor unto women that will, and the family, the mother and the father, that they have kept this daughter. They have kept this daughter to be a prize unto the man, and that her whole reproductive system is ready for you. It has not been invaded or evaded or whatever by a man or any male. Now you have in your New Testament where they talk about the, should I say, the sign of a virgin, which is true. It's in the Old Testament also. Yes. He says now, if her father refused to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgin. That's the only time you pay a bride price, if that woman is a virgin. Other than that, she'd given herself away freely. See, they agreed in this thing. He enticed a maid that is not betrothed, or else they would have been put to death. Now, he says now, and to lie with her, she has what? Consented. The Greek call it fornication. It's still adultery. It's out of the confines of, not the confines, but the boundaries of marriage. You see how twisted things can get? But the bride price is for virgins. It's called the dowry of virgins according to the Torah of the Septuagint and the Pentateuch. We do not have the exact book of the law. No, we don't. These are just historical accounts. The heathen have it somewhere. I don't know where they have it, but there's a book of the law. Else Joshua wouldn't have said it. And throughout the Torah, or the historical account of Israel, they wouldn't have talked about the book of the law either. There was a book of the law even as Moses stepped off the boat. There was books that God had wrote. There was commandments that God had given unto man even during the time of Noah, Methuselah, Seth. Yes, they were, and they were written down. But some kind of way these things have disappeared. I would suspect it's because of Deuteronomy 28. You need to read that. He says, now, if her father refused to give her to him, he shall pay the money according to the dowry. This is where you get off easy, man. You pay your vows to the Most High. You give your, and the woman, she gets off easy too, in that she gives her sacrifice because you have trespassed against the Most High. Yes, you have. Now you keep doing it, then it can be something that is called sin. And if you're caught in Israel, this Israel here, you will be put to death. But in this heathenistic world where you're captive and scattered, their laws are different. They took the laws of the Most High and they changed them. This is what he's talking about. You are in an anti-God, anti-whatever system. They have changed the times and the laws already. This is over a course of time. If you want to call anything anti, let it be Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and all the rest of them that use the Bible and change it to fit their agenda. "18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." Now before that, he says, now if they get to the point where they're enticed to do these things, to have other gods and worship other beings and pay their homage and become, some people are spiritually acute, or should I say they're sensitive. And they think it'd be a gift, but it'd be a test, not only for you, but for those of you that you encounter. Yes, they do, because these spirits know things, and they can move at what I call, they are as the wind, can move at the speed of thought. Yes. And so you being attuned to them, they know the life that your ancestors lived. They know the life that, they know how to get you to worship them and cause you to even depend on them for your daily info or sustenance. And this is having no other gods before me, no other powers. Doesn't mean gods. It means powers. The nations are gods. They are powers because of what? Their nuclear bombs and their different armaments that they have. They have powers. So therefore, they create a power. Rome, even those countries that are coming up now, they are making themselves powerful powers. They're increasing their powers. This is what the word God insinuates. But God is as the wind. You cannot see him, but you know from where he comes from, because he shows you, or he will condemn you to show you where you need to repent. Now, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. There's a reason for this, and it's all written here. I adjure you to read the historical accounts many times over and over again. Skip the New Testament. I say that with all adamancy. Skip it. Learn the way of the Most High, the way of the ancients. You hear your church folk come or go back to the old landmarks. That was how they felt things should be. This is how God says it should be. And whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death. Bestiality. We already understand that anything out of the confounds of marriage is adultery. Now he does make this part that if two are unmarried and they lay together, then they shall marry. If not, The virgin's dowry shall be paid. This is the way of Israel. It's not the way of the heathen. This is not the way of the U.S. This is not the way of other countries, the EU and all the other countries that do not follow the law of the Most High. It's not the way of Christianity either. This is the way of God, who has the giver of the law, the lawgiver. And once the lawgiver gives the law to whom it pertains, then that one delivers the law unto whom he is directed to give it. Yes, the lawgiver. Now, he that sacrificed unto any god, save the I am, unto the I am only shall he be utterly destroyed. This is not among the heathens, the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Christians, and all these other people. This is not theirs. They worship, they sacrifice to a god, they place fruit and vegetables before their statues and all these other things. They bow before their crosses. They worship and bow down to these images. It doesn't have to be in the form of a man. It can be anything, an object, a crystal, anything that we look for our power through. He said, he put this utterly destroyed. See, what they have done is to make you think that God would destroy them himself. No, God has put this way for the judges and the officers in Israel to do. If they see these things, they shall bring these people before the judges with the evidence of what they are doing. And also, if there is any man in Israel at this time that see these things, a witch practicing her witchcraft, or he that layeth with the beast, to put these things before the judges that they might see. In other words, he had due process. But the thing that he put it, the Most High put it, is that you're going to be put to death. He don't need no prison. He's not going to waste his time with you being in prison. You murder, you're going to be put to death. You commit adultery, you're going to be put to death. You lie, you shall pay the price. And if you lie on somebody that have been put to death, then you shall be put to death in like manner. If it's found that you've lied, or the group of you have lied. See, this is not so with the heathen. This is not so with Christians. This is not so with any other religion. This is with the Most High. This is who this is with. And he said, you sacrifice to any god, and you found doing that, God is going to put you, he told Israel to put you to death. This is why the land spewed them out. They would not put the people to death that done these things. They allowed them to practice these things. He said, thou shalt neither vex a stranger, nor oppress him. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Now, what did God do here? He said, don't do it. I mean, you got the heathen lands deals with what they call immigrants. So don't trouble an immigrant. An immigrant comes to live among you. He's there to do according to your law. Now, if he doesn't do according to your law, then what? Then you will send him back to what, or either persecute him according to the law. Period. But because he's different, he's saying, do not oppress him. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child, orphans, those who have lost their husbands. The husband is the protection. Or a child that had mother and father. You take them in, you help them, you do what you have to do. This is what God is saying. And if you can marry the widow, then she will not be a widow anymore. She will be married again. And for that, if we do these things that God have commanded us to the best of our ability until we're back into that land, we will have peace.